Everyone has a bright light inside of them that deserves to be seen by the world. That's why it's time to shine the light on the extraordinary who are accomplishing phenomenal things. This is the Shine Out Loud Show with Lillian Abogo.
So good evening wherever in the world you are. This is the Shine Out Loud Show with me, Lillian Abogo. So this is an awesome show. Now, for those of you who are listening, no, we are not live. We normally are. But we had to pre-record a really special show with a very, very awesome woman. Now, her name is Eunice Baguma Ball. She is a woman in tech. So first and foremost, my hat off to her. And she is a passionate and consummate networker that she built a business around the idea of a network and creating sustainable businesses out in Africa. And one of her major passions is actually working with women in tech and building businesses around that. So join me and welcome the incredible Eunice. Hi, Eunice.
Hi, Lillian.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, you are welcome. You're welcome. It's my absolute pleasure to get you on the show. So, today we're going to be talking about women in tech and founding women, which is another part of your projects and your passions. What made you step up from corporate world into starting your own business?
So, interesting story is I actually trained as an engineer, manufacturing engineer, and I did start out my career practicing engineering. I was working at a hydropower station in Uganda, which is where I'm from. And there was just something about it for me. I feel like I'm more of a creative person. I love problem solving and I love to create new things. And I think if I didn't have sort of an African education where your grades determine what courses you do, I'd probably have done something more creative on the art side, but ended up in science and technology, which is great as well. But I found myself in a role where I didn't feel like that creative side was sort of being met. Right. My role was very much around maintaining things and keeping things running and, being exact about how they run and making sure there was no errors. And that just stifled me. So I got into working with startups and tech and more in the sort of computer science side because that was a part of technology that was quite cool because then you used it to create new things. So I started out working for a company that was creating mobile-based financial service solutions. It was an American company that was setting up in Uganda, and as part of the founding team, really just launching on the ground and building these solutions on the ground up around the customers and the needs that we were seeing in the market. And I just fell in love because actually I realized, I do love technology, especially when it's a tool to create stuff. And I guess moving from then, an established sort of engineering organization and environment to a startup and sort of getting that taste of that life is then what led me to later on want to set up my own business.
Well, that's amazing. And first of all, you're the first person I've actually heard them say they fell in love with tech. And that is basically how they got onto that journey. So I've never actually heard anybody use the word love and tech in the same sentence.
I hope that's not strange.
No, actually, you know what? We need to actually fall in love with what we do, and be it tech, engineering, or any part, any other sector. There is something about when you're creating something and there is a ingrained burning passion. So yes, by all means, love the tech, and we love that. So looking at your company is called the Africa Technology Business Network, and it focuses on developing sustainable tech-based businesses in Africa. Yeah. Why tech-based, and what? In fact, no. Let me rephrase that. Why did you say you were going to create something that was about sustainable business for Africa?
So first of all, when I started working with this company that was doing financial services around tech, so we were creating applications based on mobile phones to enable people access their banking. So people that didn't have access to bank accounts were now being able to check their balance or make transactions and actually start to build up a credit footprint because of these applications we're building and using a simple technology like SMS and mobile phones. And
Right.
for me, that just showed me the power that, it would take millions to build a bank branch in this, rural area that I was, but actually we were using technology to create a solution that meant that the mobile phone they already had was their gateway to being included into the formal financial sector. And I just thought that was really powerful. And I later moved to another local software development company where we were similarly not only focused on financial services but building solutions for access to health. So I remember I worked on a project where we were using SMS-based notifications to let people know where their nearest health center was and where they could discreetly get an HIV test done. And all these things just made me realize the power of technology to, in a way, sort of leapfrog and overcome some of the infrastructure barriers that we have in Africa. So where people, where the roads are not so good and it's going to take hours to get there, how do we get the information into the hands of people? How do we get, these basic services, whether it's health, education, and financial services? And from the work I was doing, I was seeing that technology was really a powerful tool for enabling this. And it's something I'm really passionate about. I went on to found my own sort of small tech startup. And then, which didn't go very well for a number of reasons. A few mistakes I made along the way, which I share very go into detail on my TEDx talk. If anyone's interested in hearing the full sob story, they can Google me and look that up. But yeah, so I moved to London about 3.5 years ago because my husband's job moved in here, and I really wanted to stay doing what I was doing, which was around using technology as a tool to enable access for underserved communities. And so one of the things I found when I ran my startup in Uganda, it was really, really difficult accessing mentorship, accessing role models who had done it, especially around tech. So I come from an entrepreneurial family, so I did have entrepreneur role models like my mom, but she ran like a store, which is quite different from when you're trying to build a tech-based business and you're trying to think about things like how to receive payments and build applications and all these things. And they just want enough of those sort of role models in the ecosystem yet. And also access to financing and just expertise around how to grow and scale a business. I wanted my business to serve the 5 East African markets straight away, and I needed that mentorship and advice around growing and scaling across markets and some of the unique challenges that's coming across. So when I moved to London, I got involved with the tech ecosystem here, and I was going to a number of events and networking, and I just saw how much resource and support there was for startups here. And I thought, how can I get a piece of this, some of this, and connect African startups and entrepreneurs to this, because I needed this, a few years ago when I was doing my startup. And that's how ATB and Africa Technology Business Network started. It was just bringing together people in London who are interested in, whether it was investors or members of the technology and business community here that were interested in investing in, mentoring, exchanging skills, and investing in the emerging tech companies and opportunities in Africa.
Okay, so basically you've actually created an avenue where these people who are creating startups in Uganda and other parts of Africa could actually access what's here, what's out here in terms. So you were creating like a two-way street, and they were then, in turn getting access to these incredible minds who had the next tech development that could be beneficial to the tech market.
Exactly, and that's really important. I think the fact that, like you mentioned, it's a two-way street. Investors here are not necessarily doing it out of just, sort of philanthropic thoughts. I mean, really, Africa as a market is something that a lot of people realize they can't ignore. It is a growing young population. It's estimated that 1 in 4 young people will be African by 2050. So this is a huge population that is always going to have a huge market and a huge opportunity, because all these young people need education, need healthcare. They are online, they're Facebook users, they're using technology, they need banking services. So, we pitch it here, especially to our network, we pitch it as an opportunity. And we do, like you mentioned, say these entrepreneurs are the people who understand on the ground. So I think the biggest barrier for investors here is the fact that they don't understand the market, they don't understand this emerging consumer, and that's why connecting them to these entrepreneurs who are creating these local solutions, who understand the market, is an opportunity for them. And on the side of the entrepreneurs, we're providing a platform for them to then showcase and build networks that they might not otherwise be able to build by being able to access global investors and other global tech companies and startups. So we run something called Africa Tech Pitch London every year, and what we've tried to do is we put a call out for African tech startups, and we present 5 or 6 of them to our networks here. And this year we did it via a video pitch competition. So people, did their pitches wherever they were, and then we sort of showcased them here during London Tech Week, which is like the leading sort of celebration and festival of tech in London. And I've had quite a few people sort of reach out to me and connect to the startups we presented because of that. So really, we see ourselves as a platform for both sides to exchange what we think is value on either side.
And that's amazing because there's something about looking at the, first of all, developing market, and you look at Africa as a whole. Likewise, yourself, I'm African by parentage. We know aid doesn't work. So what you're doing is creating a platform that says, let's change the face of the dialogue and the story around Africa from aid to tech. And with tech comes an industry. With an industry, you actually create nations and create more power through that. Exactly. And I think there's nothing more powerful than that. So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we go along and we look at your business, and one of the things that stands out is you talk about it being sustainable. And it's a word that I find that right now it's another buzzword because everything is sustainable cotton, sustainable this, sustainable that. But when we actually dial it down to the core, what does a sustainable business look like for you?
For me, really, a sustainable business is one that is not only serving the person that is running it, it's actually helping to solve a challenge that they've identified in the community, and it's this having a much greater impact than employing one person. And I think that's one of the things that we're trying to support, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs. Almost everyone's an entrepreneur in Africa. So the challenge is that a lot of the time it's micro businesses or it's a side hustle, right?
Yes.
The idea that you can grow, that you can plan, grow, scale your business to employ not only yourself but other people, to solve a challenge for a user, customer, and solve it at scale. For us, that's what I mean by sustainable. That's my understanding of sustainable business anyway, is we're trying to get to a point where we're empowering African entrepreneurs to solve challenges and develop their own solutions to the challenges they see and be able to solve them at scale and thus create an impact within their communities.
You know what, Eunice, I absolutely like that. I think that's something that we need to hold firm, because where you're creating a solution to a standing problem, and you're creating something that not just serves you, but serves a community greater than yourself. So, and also I think we need to get past our business being micro businesses to actually being legacy businesses, because if we look at in the developed world, so we look at the Mercedes-Benz company, the person who started Mercedes-Benz is not still with us, but yet the company goes on. Yeah. So we need to start looking at our businesses from that kind of viewpoint, is if I am no longer around, can it still survive?
Exactly.
And so I think sustainable, we need to start really getting to the crux of what sustainable looks like, not just in developing countries, but in our day-to-day businesses out here in the UK. Now, the other thing that is your absolute passion is working with women in tech. And you have a program called the Accelerator Program. What is that?
So we, when we started out doing the events, bringing together the potential investors and the tech community here in London, one of the things that always came up in terms of challenges for investors that were interested in engaging with or investing, collaborating with African startups was the skill level of some of these entrepreneurs. And like we talked about earlier, a lot of entrepreneurs out of necessity. So they have not necessarily received any training, or they don't have the specific tools of, articulating their business, planning their business, keeping their records in a way that they can demonstrate that they understand the market, they understand the opportunity, and they have a plan in place to be able to grow that business in a way that will be attractive to an investor. So we did see that gap in terms of some of the startups and initiatives we were trying to help promote. So I had it in mind to start up a program supporting African startups in a way to be entrepreneurs to get those fundamentals, to get those basics in place, because there's a lot of tools that are already readily available that you use to plan and showcase and really track the growth of your business. And we wanted to give entrepreneurs that. I focused in specifically on female entrepreneurs because I've been part of the ecosystem. I know there's very few female entrepreneurs running tech businesses in the first place. I also saw it when we did, our Africa Tech pitch, and you'd put a call out, and maybe 1 in 5, 1 in 6 of the startups would be presenting to investors here were led by women, which for me was not something that I was happy about, and I wanted to really change. And looking at the numbers in the ecosystem, I thought it was definitely a pipeline issue and something that needed to be solved from the root. I think that fundamentally there was a barrier in terms of women just entering the ecosystem. I think there was something around this, the way tech is perceived, like there's this mysterious thing, like you're in tech, you're a woman in tech. Like, I really wanted to create a program that would demystify that and tell people tech is just a tool to solve your business. You're a micro entrepreneur. You're already successfully maybe running your small business, supplying customers with this. You have what it takes. Technology is just a tool that's going to allow you to then grow and scale and serve more customers and do it more efficiently. So I really wanted to create this program that helped young African women to view technology as a tool that they could use to set up their businesses and really give them the right tools to set up their businesses right with a growth mindset. And so we set up Her Future Africa, and we started the program in Ghana, and we've already taken 32 young women through this program, and we're starting to see some amazing success stories. Honestly, to me, it's seeing the potential that was there and seeing that it was just a few barriers, like, the tools, the right networks that were preventing these women from sort of, taking over the world in a sense, because I was like, I've been looking for women-led startups all this time, and here's a room full of 32 women, and I'm struggling to select our top 10 that we're going to take to the next level because everyone was amazing. Literally, I watched the pitch day, and we had one of our partners who runs iSpace Ghana, and he'd originally offered to take on 2 of the entrepreneurs into their accelerator program. He watched the pitch and he took on all 10 because he was like, literally, and they had some of these women, they had these amazing tech ideas. One of them was a lady. She was trying to set up this app connecting. So she wanted to train a young unemployed, high school dropout ladies and train them to be professional nannies. And then on the other hand, connect them to young working moms who are looking for qualified professional childcare. So in a sense, she was trying to create a Uber for nannies, as she called it. And this is something that she'd seen her own sister sort of literally almost give up her career because she'd had so many bad experiences with poor quality childcare. So she was trying to create this app, which with creating employment on one end, helping young professional women pursue their careers and have peace of mind with their kids on the other end. And I was just like, I've been looking for these amazing startups, and all this time people are there, they have the drive, they have the ideas, and there is some kind of barriers that are not allowing these ideas to make it through and actually succeed. And that's kind of what the program is about, is breaking down those barriers and allowing ideas like that and potential like that to really thrive.
Eunice, I'm going to say this again. You are an extraordinary woman, and the work that you're doing is absolutely amazing in itself, but also let's take it outside, that you're actually giving these women platforms. You're actually creating room for the next tech genius. You might have for better choice of words, the next Martina Zuckerberg in your midst. And so, yes, I think that we need to recognize this. And I, for one, I'm absolutely all for women standing up and creating new avenues for themselves.
Can I just add as well? I think for me, one of the things that drives my passion for working with women is that, especially in the African context, women are usually, disproportionately affected by the challenges. So the communities have basically been held up on the backs of women. Like for centuries, the African continent, everyone will say communities are led by women.
Yes.
And so when you see that, when it comes to the level of things like technology, accessing credit, when it comes to growing and scaling businesses, there are barriers in place that are preventing them and keeping them from being at the micro level. I think it's a huge missed opportunity for the continent. We're trying to drive local homegrown solutions. We as Africans, we all jointly want to see Africa drive and develop and create its own solutions. And I think that by not unlocking the potential of the women, we're really missing out on a lot of the solutions, because they understand the challenges. They are the backbone of the community, and they therefore deserve to be at the forefront of creating the solutions and being given all the support and tools to do that.
Okay, see, now you've just touched something that's very, very important to me, because we forget that, especially for African women, not only are we the backbone, we're also and historically, women were the ones that led certain aspect, and especially industry. So when the going to market, holding a market, it was women based. With no market, there's no food. With no food, there's no community. There's nothing. And so there's this fear that, women in tech means that these women won't understand how to. No, women have been holding businesses for the longest. And so what you're doing is just giving them a brand new platform to create. And women have been creative, especially in our community, for a very long time. And we're going to touch on your new project, which is about founding women and talking about role models. But the fact is, and you even said it yourself, your mother was an entrepreneur, or is an entrepreneur, but you didn't think of her in that respect in terms of the tech industry. But she's an entrepreneur. She may not be tech, but the skills apply. And we need to remember that those our great grandmothers, our grandmothers have a lot to teach us when we go back into looking at what they did to pioneer and stand out.
Yeah, I mean, because I believe, like, when I say my mom has been, she's a successful entrepreneur in her own right, and a lot of what the skills I think the drive to be an entrepreneur, that resilience to keep going, is definitely something I've learned from her, as well as just this desire to build something from the ground up and see it grow. Because I saw her do that, literally start her shop, sharing a little corner in a big shop, and just having a small stall, to owning 2 floors of an entire shop, and just seeing how diligent and how hard she worked at that is truly inspired me. And for me, I always think about what she could have done if then she was able to sell online, for example. Order online. She would have taken over the world, honestly. and I think this is the thing is, I think with technology, with this new tool, it brings business to a whole other level. There's all other challenges that you now have to deal with, right? That you now have to deal with how the platform works and how you communicate with customers and online and SEO marketing. It just brings a whole new set of challenges which she wouldn't have the first clue about, which is where I think that you do need the traditional entrepreneur role models. And I think for African women, they're all around them. That's definitely there. I think where the gap is and where the missing role models is when it comes to around using technology to build and grow your business. I think sometimes it brings some unique challenges around that. And that's why I wanted to put together a resource where I looked up for these stories, or inspiring stories of African women who are leading technology businesses. And I've been saying to the ladies as I interview them that I almost feel like this is a selfish project, because I'm so inspired by their stories. They're all varied, from people like Rebecca Enonchong, who's built $1 million business from the ground up, to Hilda Mora, who's actually sold her business and now is on her next one. And I kept telling her, she talked about how tough the first one was, and I was like, and now you're doing it all over again, to people who have failed and now trying again, to people who are earlier on in their journeys. I think there's a range of stories, and the one thing that is the common thread through all the stories is, one, you don't have to be you don't have to be techie, you don't have to be a coder yourself to use technology in your business. There will always be skills. As an entrepreneur, there will always be skills you don't have. You will always have blind spots. You will always have weaknesses. Your job is to identify what those weaknesses are and surround yourself with the right people to fill that. Whether if you have the tech skills, maybe you won't have the marketing skills, maybe you won't have the sales skills. So it's just another. You're an entrepreneur, you're a problem solver. It's just another problem solver. And if you have the problem solving mindset and the entrepreneurial mindset already, then integrating tech and building a tech business is something that you will be able to do. And that's kind of what we want to share through the book, is really showing the real stories of women who've done it and demystifying this whole women in tech thing, and showing young women they do already have what it takes, because they're already they already have that entrepreneur mindset. They already are doing amazing stuff in their communities anyway. So the tech element is just another challenge for them to take on and just go through and succeed.
I think if that's selfish, then so be it, because we need to have more women sharing those stories, and not just those stories, but the authentic stories that say, I screwed up, I failed, this is what I did, this is what I learned from it, and this is where I am now. And we need to have those stories, especially, I keep talking about this on a consistent basis, that we live in the Insta era of Instagram, Twitter, and everybody is an overnight success. We need young people, and even ourselves, to know the truth that it takes sometimes 10 years to be an overnight success.
Yeah.
So we're going to come on to the new project, but I think it's rather timely that we're speaking, because with the recent leak by the former Google employee of that email that talks about diversity and women in tech, do you think that the lack of diversity in tech in the West is partially self-created?
You know what? I was having a conversation with someone about this earlier, because that letter from that Google employee has been all the buzz, and I really think that it's all about systems and structures. And I think that as the world evolves, as the nature of work evolves, as we've moved from societies where work was very industrial, very manual, mining, industry and all these things, the world of work in a way has been built for men. Even the hours, saying we do Mondays to Fridays, we do 9 to 5. It was designed, I think it came up at a time where work was a certain way. And now we've moved into a time where work is more, it's driven digital. It's not about strength, it's about what you have in your mind. And when it comes to what you have in your mind, then, what your sex doesn't come into play at all. It doesn't really matter. And I think that a lot of this friction we're seeing is just because the systems have to change, because the people who are, obviously, if the system has been built for you, the people who are uncomfortable with seeing the system change and make room for others. And I think that that's where this guy was coming from. I think he just, I think some people see women's rights and women equality as, some men see that as, oh, we're giving up our power, and I don't think it is. I think actually we're much stronger because we're able to fully leverage all the individuals in our society for all their strengths. So, when I think about, I was telling someone earlier, I really don't consider myself an engineer, even though I studied engineering. But one of the things that I think are very engineering about me is that I hate inefficiencies. Right. So the idea that we're sitting, saying, having relegated, half of our population to not fulfill their potential. These incredible women that could be great mathematicians, engineers, whatever, and we've not fully leveraged that because we've said, oh no, this is not for you, you belong somewhere else. Is a waste. And how much further would we be if every single woman in the world was empowered to fully use their mind, their abilities, and their talents. So when you do that, even when it comes to technology, how many solutions are locked up somewhere that could be solving so many of the challenges we see in our world today, and could be locked up somewhere in some woman, girl, because we're not giving them the opportunity. That's how I look at it.
Okay. But on the other hand, and this is just me playing devil's advocate, you have cases where, let's look at the West. Women are educated, women are, and everything. We're not saying they're not barriers. We're not saying that they're not, maybe some discriminatory practices. We're not saying that those things do not exist. But you have women who do not go into these fields. So they do not apply for these roles. Or if they do, they're like, well, I only want to do in this kind of sector or that kind of sector, and don't go for these roles. So is it that it's the industry, or the fact that they are not applying for these roles? And so is it that we need to look at how we are educating girls in terms of, at school, where you have career advisors not giving young girls that, oh, well, social care or HR or PR is the great job role for you, but saying, well, let's look at what exactly are your interests and look at different career options. That could be one of the things that we may need to look at. But the fact is, if women are not applying, is it the industry or is it the women?
I think that the real question is, why are they not applying? And that's kind of where, what I was talking about, the system and the society, and like you said, how we're educating girls, the messaging. Yeah. This is not, the subtle messages. This is not for you. This is more for boys. There's so many things we've been changing. I was having a conversation recently with a lady who's a doctor here in the UK, right. And she says now there's more women qualifying as doctors than men. This was not the case, not very many years ago. Like, a doctor was basically a male-dominated field as well. Yes. And again, so why are we seeing now more female doctors than men? Because we've removed the barriers telling women, oh, this is a man's field. Yeah, or go and be a nurse. Exactly. And the potential, all those women that are applying now, their mothers, didn't. So that meant that we were having half the population of people that could have been incredible doctors, discovering incredible cures and solving incredible things, that didn't get the opportunity to do so. So I think, yes, there might be, you do see that issue where, some people say, oh, women are just not applying, or, people of diverse nature are not applying to these roles. But when you look at actually, to be able to even apply to that role, what school have you been able to go to? What, yes. What education have you received? What community have you come from? That is, allowing you, like, I think a lot of and this is kind of tying in back to the book. I think that there's a lot that you achieve in life that is about believing you can, believing you have the right to. And that's why you see people born in privilege will probably end up being successful. And they'll be bright and they'll have their own ability, but it's because they have that fundamental basis from their upbringing to believe that they have the right to be successful. Exactly. They have the right to be in those places. They will apply to those things because they feel they belong and they have every right to be there. And I think that is where the missing piece that we haven't really solved is that we haven't fully leveled the playing field to make women feel in some of these industries that they belong. And even when sometimes it's not just around the skills, sometimes it's just the way the work is structured. Like, people know, like, if I'm going to be in investment banking, I have to work 24/7 for, and, maybe then you're in a way, the way that the role has been designed originally is because it's been male dominated and the work structure has worked around that. And that's not the most efficient way to fully, to make it a place that women are going to want to stay and build their careers in. And we have to think about those things, because I don't think we're running the most effective. It's not the most effective way we've structured work.
Oh no, I absolutely agree with you. And actually, I think companies are now changing how they work, because there's a company now, I can't remember the name off the top of my head. It's an investment bank, and what they're doing to keep their senior female executive is they now have a concierge service that help the new moms get back to work. So they have people that will help them, supply them with nannies, help them get, the amenities that you need to get back to work, pick up their dry cleaning, buy items for them to take care of their babies. Some companies are even beginning to have more and more creches on site. So
and it might not even cost them more, because
it doesn't.
In all of that, if you're retaining someone really good in your team, with all the bonuses they pay and blah, 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 like it's not much. They should, that sounds incredible. And I think really there's even space to do more.
Oh, yeah, there is space. But I think we need to start looking at these businesses and saying, if they're doing it, what else can other business do? But the fact is, let's start championing the businesses that are doing these. Let's start saying, if this is being done, then what next? And that's the thing. We're so used to looking at the ones who are not doing and saying, well, they're not doing this. And so we focus all our energy there and forget the ones that are saying, well, we have a flexible working scheme. We have concierge that will support our women who are returning mothers so that they can actually continue their careers at the point at which they left off for maternity and still take care of their responsibilities as mothers in the way that works for them. We need to start celebrating that. And the moment we start saying, well, I'm not going to apply for that company, but I will apply for the other company, we're then forcing the system to change, because when those companies, their bottom line is them being hit because women are not coming in, they're not getting the skills, and those other companies are thriving, they will have to change.
Exactly. And I think at the end of the day, as a society, the biggest thing you need is, then a pipeline of whole, full individuals. And let's, looking at the other side of it, the fact that the way work has been structured has been, in a way that men don't necessarily get to spend as much time as they should with their kids, especially early on. And
exactly,
that's kind of building a society that is where we are right now, and we should be changing that as well, both from the point of view, like young fathers do want to be able to have a relationship with their kids. We're living in a world that kids are so connected, there's so much more information they have, and so they need to be able to make decisions. We're not able to protect them 100% from things, and they need that strong foundation from both parents to actually be able to make the right decisions in this world and thrive. And so, we need to completely restructure work to allow A, women to work, but B, fathers to spend more time with their family.
We need to return the humanity to the workplace, and so that we have more efficient way of working. I actually agree with that. So if you were just joining us, you're listening to a special show with the incredible Eunice Baguma Ball. She is the creator and founder of the Africa Technology Business Network, and we've been talking about her project on founding women and women in tech. And we're looking at why we still need women in tech, why we still need role models, and why there is that conversation around technology and sustainable businesses for Africa. So we've talked around it quite a lot. So your brand new project is called Founding Women, which is a book that is actually bringing together different women who are founders and owners to share their stories and share their experiences.
Yeah.
Why is another book on this topic needed?
So, I've seen quite a few books on spotlighting African female entrepreneurs generally. I've also seen a book on tech, female tech entrepreneurs, not necessarily African. There is none that I know of that is bringing together African women leading businesses in technology enabled. And I think that this, for all the reasons we've mentioned before, why technology is going to be that tool that can empower women to move from the micro business playing field to the growth and really sustainable business level is technology. And what I wanted to do was create these case studies where women could share these specific these journeys into technology, in their journeys into technology and their journeys setting up these businesses, and show women these diverse stories. So some of the people we've spoken to are not from a tech background at all.
Right.
There's one I spoke to who, she was happy with her career. She didn't really want to be an entrepreneur, and it's just amazing journeys to setting up their businesses. And it's one that I think, for me, I want a young woman in Africa or anywhere around the world, the diaspora, reading this, to come away seeing themselves in one of these women. There's one founder interviewed who's a single mom, and talking about the struggle of trying to set up this business, basically having two babies. One is your business, and one is this baby that you have to rely on, and just sharing these diverse stories, because I want people to take away, she did it, so can I, and to also show, like, technology is not this mysterious thing. It's not this thing to be scared of. It is something that is available to you.
Right.
Yeah. So that's why I thought that there's not enough role models highlighted. And one of the things we talk about, I remember I wrote an article on this around founding women and why I'm doing the book. And I put into Google, I just Googled the word tech entrepreneur.
Right.
And as you can imagine,
every man under the sun,
white male, basically,
yes,
comes up. And I really, even to myself, when I think about, the person that's going to create the next innovation that, I don't know, takes us to the next level as a civilization, or that even when you think about like apps, in terms of Uber or Facebook, I really want to live in a world where that person could be an African woman, because I think 100% ability is evenly distributed around the world. It's just opportunity that's not. And I want this idea of, when people think of tech entrepreneur or think of, I wanted to create this resource that showed these stories of these women, and that for that person who picks up that book, the next time they think of a tech entrepreneur, they have 10, 15, 20 case studies of African female tech entrepreneurs, which, is right now, for a lot of people that I spoke to about this, ask them, who's the most famous African female tech entrepreneur, and many people are not able to come up with a name, and that's what I'm trying to change.
Okay, thank you for that answer, because I think, first and foremost, let me say this, that's one book I actually want to read, so I'm looking forward to this book coming out. And I think what you're doing, again, is very, very powerful, because you're giving young girls the permission to say, you have the right to be there, because they've done it, so can you. And I think it's that permission, going back to what you were saying about growing up with privilege. These people that do grow up with privilege have an innate sense of who they are, and they know that they're allowed in any environment. So you're giving young girls, African girls in the diaspora and also back in on the continent, the same feeling. So that's actually very, very powerful. And then, we keep talking, and we keep coming back to this. Your business is built on networking. It's actually creating connections and network. And we know that the old boy network is still very much alive. Now, and we, no matter whether we like it or hate it, we have to look at it and say, as a structure, what can we take away from that setup to build networks that work for us, especially for us as women?
There's one of the entrepreneurs I interviewed for the book who put it really well. I was asking her that, what have been your experience navigating this tech space as a female and as an African female? And especially because this particular founder is building an app, a language app, and she's not techie herself, so she had to network and find investors and find people to build the app. But she said, yes, the field is very much still a boys' club, is very male dominated, but how she puts it in her mindset, she sees it as an opportunity. She sees it as an opportunity to stand out. If she's in a pitch competition and she's the only, female-led startup, she's like, they'll remember me. You know what I mean? Of course, this is just in a mindset. There might be, biases or whatever, but she chooses not to focus on those. She chooses to focus on the fact that in terms of networking, this means I'm memorable.
Right.
This means I can, build, really go after building those networks and show people what I'm trying to do and get people to believe in it. And that's kind of what she focuses on. And I take a very similar mindset, because I feel like when I moved to the UK, and I talk a little about, so just a quick background story. I left Uganda for the first time when I was about 25, 26 to go
Right.
and do a master's in Italy. And
Okay.
I always say, I did this TEDx talk about this, and I say that's the time I discovered I was Black and discovered that I had never been labeled. I'd never labeled myself those things. I had other labels. I had my tribe. I had, whatever, my family name and all these things where I was from in Uganda. But the label of being Black or being African wasn't one that I, related to or, used. And then when I left the continent for the first time, that was the first time I was a minority, and the first time there were these labels, and the first time I started to realize that these labels came with certain baggage.
Of
and
course.
certain negative perceptions. And so even now in the UK, as I try and set up my business and, standing in front of people and setting up this network and running these events and saying, I'm a thought leader. I know Africa Tech because I have worked in this industry and I know it is exciting and there's so much stuff and I'm the person leading this conversation. I feel like if I had allowed myself to sort of give into those fears of, the first couple of months was kind of like, not obsessed, but just kind of very conscious of my accent and the fact that I was very clearly not from here and wondering if people understood me. And, you can focus on all these things and say, I'm Black, I'm female, strike one, strike two, I'm foreign, strike three. Or you can focus on the fact that actually I know something in this room that other people don't. That I am, I'm the one person in this room that has, followed and worked and been in the Africa Tech ecosystem for like the last 10 years. Those are the kind of things I focus on. I go into every meeting, every environment, just focusing on what I'm bringing to the table that is unique, that is value. And I try as much as possible to leave the things that could be perceived as sort of weaknesses, or that I try not to try and read bias into everything. And if it's there, I'm always about, is there going to be valuable exchange in this interaction? I have something of value to bring. Do you have something of value to bring? And if that exchange is going to happen, it's going to happen. If not, or if you're going to let your biases get in the way of that, then there's nothing I can do about that. I have to move on.
I like that answer. And I like the idea of where you have to focus in on you and what you bring to the table. And the fact that what you bring is your original authentic self. And with that comes with your original ideas, with your perspective. So we need to focus on what we bring rather than the biases against us.
Yeah.
And so when is this project due to come out? Tell us a bit more, and how can people find out about it?
Cool. So I'm actually in the process of doing the interviews. I've interviewed over 10 female founders already. I'm aiming to have 20 to 25 interviews for the book.
Okay.
So that's ongoing. I'm aiming to have them all the interviewing done by end of September and have the books ready, the editing and production done in November, with December, Christmas for delivery for those who've ordered the book. If you'd like to get your hands on the book, we're currently running a crowdfund on Indiegogo. If you search hashtag FoundingWomen and connect with us on Twitter and social media, on Facebook at AfricaTBN, or simply search hashtag FoundingWomen, you will see our tweets and shares about the crowdfund, and you'll be able to get the link. But what happens is on the crowdfund, you can pre-order a copy of the book, and you'll also get updates on how we're doing. One of the things we want to do is run a competition to get a young female artist to actually do our book cover. So we'll be doing a bit of a competition and asking you guys to help us choose that. We'll also be sharing some snippets as the interviews come in and as we finish some interviews. So you kind of get like the insider info by being one of the very first pre-orders. But also every book that is ordered on the campaign, we're going to be able to donate one for free to a young female, aspiring female entrepreneur in one of our programs and across Africa and the diaspora as well.
Okay.
So yeah, and all the other proceeds as well from the crowdfund are going back into providing mentorship and support to actually help the promising female founders that we identify to help them kickstart their own ventures. So it's part of this thing where you're not just getting the book, you're really being part of a movement that is helping to put young African women in the driving seat, creating solutions, building their ventures, and creating impact in their communities.
Okay, so I would be supporting that project, and I will be, of course, and I will be pre-ordering a copy of the book for myself, and I will definitely would love to get you back on the show with your Founding Women for us to discuss once the book goes live. So that's my way of supporting. So the Shine Out Loud show will be supporting this project wholeheartedly as a woman in tech myself, but also as a woman with a platform. I want to support yours.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I think this is a great segue moment, and I think we should look at what your So Loud moment is for the week. Well, this is where you get to nominate anyone, pick something that is really amazing that has happened for you in the week, in the last few months. It could even be you can nominate this incredible project that you're working on, FoundingWomen. So that could be your So Loud moment for the week.
All right, we use my So Loud moment. So you know what? I think my So Loud moment is definitely going to be the Founding Women book, because the Founding Women book is not about me.
Right.
The Founding Women book is about these incredible women who are overcoming the odds to build technology businesses in tech. I don't know if you know this, but literally only about 2% of global venture capital goes to female-led tech startups. And then when you look at actually funding, venture capital funding going to Black, female-owned technology businesses, it's 0.1%. It's practically nothing. So a lot of these women have overcome great barriers and great odds to be running and building their businesses successfully. And this book is about celebrating them, celebrating all the sacrifices they've had to make, the barriers. We've had conversations of people going into meetings and being mistaken for, the secretary, even though she's the CEO of the business. And she's just kind of saying, I'm here to do business. I will take on whatever role I need to take on to build my business, because my business is more than about me. It's employing people. It's making a difference.
Right.
So I really, my shout out moment is to all the founding women out there and all the ones that are going to be in the book. And it's also to all the future ones, the ones who are sitting somewhere. You might be listening to this, and all that greatness is sitting inside of you somewhere, because you in a sense feel you don't have the permission to do that, or you don't think you can, or you don't think that this space is for you. It is. And hopefully these incredible ladies' stories will hope to show you that. So yeah, please join me on this journey. Really get a copy of the book. I'm so excited. I have no idea. I sit down, I do these interviews, and then I sit down and I get to listen back to them, and I write them out, and it's gold. Honestly, my only fear is that I will capture it and I will share it, as much of the gold and the value that I have received from listening to the stories. So,
well, I think the only thing we can say to that is this. This is the only thing we can say. Your So Loud moment is absolutely phenomenal. And to the future founding women, to the founding women of today, to the founding women of yesterday, those who gave us the permission to be here today, we thank each and every one of them. And Eunice, I cannot thank you enough for giving yourself the permission to become the woman you are today, taking that journey, and also creating a platform for others. So thank you so much for being you and being on the show today.
Thanks, Lillian. I've really enjoyed this. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome.
It's really a pleasure.
You're so welcome. Like I said, I'm looking forward to getting you and your Founding Women back on the show and supporting this project, and keep us posted. So we know how to find out about the Founding Women. How do people connect directly with you?
So I'm the best way to connect with me is on Twitter. I'm EB_Ball. That's EB_BALL on Twitter.
Right.
And also find me on LinkedIn. I write loads about my thoughts and Africa tech and women in tech on my LinkedIn. So, connect with me on those two platforms. That's where I'm, very active. And with Africa Technology Business Network as well, if you are running a startup that's Africa focused and you're based in the diaspora, or if you're based in Africa as well, connect with ATBN at Africa TBN on both Facebook and Twitter.
Awesome. So you know how to connect. If you have any question for Eunice and you want to send it through myself as well, you know how to connect with us at the Shine Out Loud Show on Instagram and Twitter. We will pass the questions on. If you want to connect with Eunice, go directly to her LinkedIn. Look for her Africa Business Network as well, because connect with her. Ask her the question. You may be the next woman she's going to feature. You may be the next Founding Woman.
Yes.
Exactly. Or you are the future Founding Woman. She can help you get your project off the ground with her Accelerate Her program. Eunice, I cannot thank you enough for being on the show.
Thanks, Lillian. Power to you.
Thank you. So, everyone, this has been the Shine Out Loud Show. Catch us again, same place, same time, 8 p.m. UK. Join us next week as I have a phenomenal woman on the show. I mean, this woman is so fantastic. I can't find words to describe her. I think between now and then I better do. But join me. You do not want to miss the incredible guest I have coming up. So, catch you same time next week. Goodbye.
You've been listening to the Shine Out Loud Show. If you want to connect with us or let us know what you thought of today's show, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Shine Out Show.